Hey Fair Faces, it is Claire Berry, and I just want to talk about why I believe that the pro-lifers are actually smarter than these women who are doing this march on Washington and everybody else marching for the Women's March. And, I don't mean in every way. I know there's a lot of different kinds of intelligence, and I really believe that really saying one person is smarter than another is really usually a false statement, because you could be smarter in one way and yada yada yada. But all of that aside, I know that I feel like there's this condescension of liberal women. They feel like, oh, well, we're more educated, so we're automatically more intelligent, more smart, and we're right. And I believe that that does not have really anything to do with, again, true street smarts, true political savvy, because when it comes down to it, the government is vastly intertwined in educating our society. And if you don't trust the government, then a government-led education isn't really going to do you very much good. In fact, it could do the opposite. And when you talk about fake news and echo chambers, the liberals have their own echo chambers, just like the right-wing people do. Okay? So even though they can say, well, we're more educated, a lot of times what that just comes across as is we're rich white women who can afford an education. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're smarter, that they're, that they have more answers or anything else. Because when you look at the past, people are so quick to just praise Obama. Everybody's like, thank you, Obama. No liberals want to even criticize him. He's dropped more bombs. He's killed more innocent children. I could just go on and on about that, and I don't want to get off track. But the purpose of this video is actually not to bash Democratic, liberal women, progressives, or whatever. I actually want to help them, because it's not like I'm against them. I really do believe a lot of their platform, a lot of their issues, in a way, even more so than the pro-lifers who I'm talking about. The difference is, and this has to do with the last video, because I explained in my last video about how these million women marchers, these women marchers are kind of out there marching without a cause. They're not calling for any change. They're not proposing anything. They're not demanding anything. They're not even really educating anybody about anything. They're just saying, we're marching to make ourselves feel better. We're marching in solidarity. Like, okay, you're making each other feel better about the fact that you lost the election, basically, is what this is. Okay? Talked about that in the last video. Now, when you compare that to the pro-lifers, okay, I'm probably going to do another video having to do with this too, because the pro-lifers and the NRA, okay, very controversial groups here, of course, but you can't deny their power. And when you compare their power to their actual numbers, it's like night and day. It's like, how? You have to stop and think. With such little actual numbers on your side, people supporting your cause, how do they get, and money too, with the lack of money coming through, how are they so effective in the government? And again, the NRA is a perfect example of this too, because I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but not a large percentage of people are members of the NRA. The difference between these two sections is that the pro-lifers and the NRA know how to enact change. They don't waste their time with empty marches that aren't going to change a thing the next day. They get on their phones, they take their money, and they use it where it counts. I believe that, and I'm not sure about the statistics, but I honestly believe, like, the NRA and the pro-lifers are the most involved people in the political process. And this, I have seen some statistics out there about this and read articles about, like, this is why the NRA is so effective despite their lack of, overall money and overall numbers, is that they make the freaking calls, okay? They show up, and most importantly, they do not give up. They don't just speak their mind once a year when they get pissed off that they lost. They are involved in the political process at a very basic level. This is why I'm going to school to become a history teacher, because I believe that this whole inclination of society nowadays and pop culture and everybody else to say, oh, well, I'm just not interested in politics. It's like, Bitch, nobody is interested in politics. Nobody thinks that it's the most exciting thing in the world. Some people do, obviously. But most of the people I feel like who are getting involved just feel like they have to. It's a moral obligation because we understand how this country and, you know, democracy in general, democracy is set up. You have to be involved. You have to stay informed. That's just it. Otherwise, your rights will be taken. You want to talk about MLK? The quotes, you know, he's got numerous quotes about this same exact thing. You have to pay attention. There's tons of quotes about this online. Our world is not going to be, you know, ruined by people who are evil. It's people who don't do anything. And doing a march once a year for yourself to make yourself feel better is not actually doing anything for change. Again, these pro-lifers, these NRA people, they are calling relentlessly. And again, they're involved in government. They get to the primaries. They own the freaking primaries, people, okay? I know this firsthand, not from an article, not from anything else. It was in, let's see, I voted for Ron Paul, I think in 2008 and 2012. And I think it was in 2012. Well, actually, it was probably more like 2010 or 2009 or 2011. I don't know when they did the primaries locally, but I actually had the opportunity to go to the Republican primary. I switched over. I was never a Republican before that, ever. And because Ron Paul was running as a Republican, I went ahead and, you know, signed up, got ready. I went to the Republican primary, and it was a long day. Like, you sit around for a really long time and you have an opportunity to talk to people about why they're here, what's going on. And I had some really revealing discussions that day. And I realized that probably 80 to 95, maybe even more percentage of people who were there and who were voting for like Mitt Romney and whoever else the other main Republican guy was that year, they were all pro-lifers. They were so passionate about the pro-life. And you know what? When I had a conversation with them, they could not answer me about issues regarding foreign, you know, like I asked them about, well, you know, what about the killings? What about these, you know, killings of innocent children in other countries and whatnot? Like, how does that fit into your pro-life, you know, mindset? And they couldn't answer me because they weren't even educated enough to know about these things. They probably were in their little echo chamber, you know, and they were so focused on their one issue, their number one issue, that basically nothing else mattered to them. And that's fine if that's how you want to live your life. That is, I don't believe that, you know, American lives, whether they be born or unborn, are more important than other countries' lives. I feel morally that is not, you know, but that, again, that's besides the point. The point is that they are there and they get in these local positions of power that puts them in a position where they're able to, you know, infiltrate and influence the government at even higher levels. And it's that dedication that changes things. And it makes them appear, those calls, when they are relentlessly calling their congressman, calling the White House, emailing, yada, 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 they are pushing forth. And again, even if they are relying on, you know, internet, slacktivism, activism, whatever, sharing things, again, I don't feel like they only, you know, speak out, you know, on the internet whenever something big happens. They are constantly on purpose, on their cause. This is how they're so effective despite much lower numbers. So again, I'm not trying to bash anybody going to the Women's March, anybody believing in this sort of thing. I'm trying to help. Hopefully you guys hear my advice and take it, because I do feel like we need to change the Democratic Party. I do feel like the denial and the inability to look at themselves in the mirror, to look at the Democratic National Convention and really look at the real true problems of that organization, the corruption, the falsehoods, the fakeness. I feel like it's totally a hypocritical, you know, oh, we're so for minorities. Well, what are you actually doing, you know, for minorities and people with different colored skin around the globe? what are you actually doing for poverty? What are you actually doing for women? And, you know, I know that they have answers to that. I know they have rebuttals. Again, get to work on them and don't just whine one day out of the year or for a couple months out of the year. Get involved all 4 years. Really look at your party. Get involved with your party and make sure that they're not stealing primaries from Bernie Sanders, because everybody knows that Bernie Sanders would have obliterated Trump. We knew this before the election, and it was blindingly apparent after the election. So get involved with your party. Don't let them hijack your democratic system and processes. And that is like the real problem. That is why they lost. That is why Trump got elected. So again, work for what you want. Don't give up. Stay dedicated, stay true to your beliefs, and don't just be a fair weather friend. Don't just be a fair weather, you know, person who cares about these sort of issues. So put your money where your mouth is, and action also. So yeah, that's all I got to say about this. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you guys later, and don't forget to eat your fruit. I'll be back with more vegan videos really soon.